Hello, Gordon. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed today. Before we launch into the actual barriers into volunteering, I'd just like you to briefly tell me why you've been looking into volunteering and what particular aspects you've been investigating.
Okay, well, it began when I was working for the East Kent Council for Voluntary Service some years ago, 1999 onwards, and we were involved with a regeneration programme focusing on the three poorest wards in the district. That's Northgate in Canterbury, Harbour in Whitstable and Heron in Herne Bay. And I was doing little audits of the voluntary sector in each of these three poor wards. And I was assessing how much money they had, whether they had enough paid staff, what their local reputation was. And I also talked to them about their volunteers. Nearly all of them needed volunteers. Most of them were short of volunteers. They really relied on volunteers. So volunteers were a big issue for them. They tried to explain their shortages of volunteers to me in terms of recruitment. In other words, they couldn't get enough volunteers. I wondered whether there was a retention element as well. I'm sure they couldn't get enough volunteers, but I wondered how good they were at keeping their volunteers. They often introduced me to people who'd been with them for a very long time, so they were good at keeping some volunteers, but I never got a statistical picture of how many volunteers they kept. For instance, if they were sent 10 volunteers on the 1st of January, how many would still be with them a year later? So I began to look into whether retention was maybe not as big a problem as recruitment, but a very serious problem that was being neglected by these groups. So I interviewed about 20 groups in Whitstable in Northgate, Canterbury in 99, then to Whitstable, and then I came to Heron Ward in Herne Bay in 2004, and I was sort of honing the questions about volunteers and how they explained the shortages, and it became quite clear that they were defining their shortages in terms of recruitment, saying we found it very difficult to get hold of volunteers, though we can keep them very well. And it left me with a number of questions. And I remember going back and talking to you about it, and you gave a sort of off-the-top response, which I thought was spot on. And you said that referring volunteers to local groups from the volunteer centre was a bit like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the side, meaning that some got lost and the bucket never got full. And so I presented my reports to the regeneration groups and sort of left it at that. But this neglect of retention, as I saw it, sort of niggled away at me. And then when I retired from paid work, I decided to do some volunteering and came up with this as a research project to see how serious retention problems were and whether the groups who said, oh, it's all down to recruitment, whether there was a little bit more to it than that.
Okay, thank you.